Harambe YouTube? It is Charles here today. I want to talk about Absolute Superman number 4. Start off, as you do in all comics, with the cover. I love this cover of Superman flying through some kind of fire here. We see the sign for, in the original canon, it's a sign for hope. But here it's a sign of the lower class of Krypton. I'm going to start off by saying about Absolute Superman, I am not a big fan of Superman. I have a cousin who was a huge fan of Superman, so much so that he has a tattoo. And we go back and forth. I just find Superman to be kind of vanilla and really all heart and not a lot of brains. But I mean, and that's just my opinion. So I never really got too much into this stuff. But here in this Absolute Superman, this retelling of the lore, giving you an alternate look into these iconic DC characters, I like this Superman. He is a Superman who comes from humble beginnings and who fights for the everyman, who fights for the oppressed. And he is not cookie cutter, vanilla, and hokey. He is all about getting down to business and doing what he needs to do to protect the oppressed. And so I did that. And Lois Lane, she works for the Lazarus Corp, which is a corporation that is kind of like a shadow government around the world. And she sees them as, almost benevolent, I think. Her father worked for Lazarus Corp, so she now is an agent of Lazarus Corp. But her run-ins with this Superman are starting to make her ask questions. And I love the way that they start this book. You see her interviewing different people, and you get a look at this page here, the different panels. Each panel, it's an interview in Dharavi, India. And she's trying to get to, she's trying to get testimony of these people who've had experiences, who have been saved by Superman, because she still doesn't know who or what she is. And then, she's interviewing a guy from Orapa, Botswana, a lady from Las Creek, Brazil, Minsk, Belarus, Juarez, Mexico, Vietnam, Cape Wineland, South Africa, Pine Ridge Reservation, United States, Cairo, Egypt. And so this tells you a few things about this character. One, that he is worldwide, international. Wherever people are oppressed, Superman is there to fight against Lazarus Corporation. And then it also tells you Lazarus Corporation, despite being this major company that is seen as vital, they are up to some nasty business. And they bring oppression and death wherever they go. And these people, they've only seen Superman once, but it's something, an experience that has stuck with them. And to build their trust, Lois Lane is trying to work alone without the peacekeepers. That's the security force of Lazarus Corp. And we get to the last person she's interviewing in Cairo, Egypt. And she says, I just have one question. Who gave you that wound? You see that she's wounded. And in the next page, she is doing a little street justice to the peacemaker that injured that lady. And so we see that, Lois Lane is not a character who just plays by the book, despite her being second generation Lazarus Corp. She is a free thinker, and that's been established in previous issues. For instance, when they do their reports afterwards, their after action reports, they're supposed to use this AI brainiac that will transfer their thoughts into writing their reports, but she's finding out that, this isn't what's going on. I need to write my own reports. And you find out through this issue that what that Brainiac AI does is it preserves the status quo. They don't want you thinking for yourself. They don't want you writing for yourself. They don't want the truth of what Lazarus Core is doing in all of these different places. And so the Brainiac AI is not so much to help these agents and to make their life easier, but it's to sanitize what they do. Here we're seeing a glimpse into that toward the middle of the book where this peacemaker named Chris is doing his after action report, and in his last run of Superman, he was about to shoot a civilian before Superman stepped in, and he's trying to explain to Lazarus Corp that he's not right, something is going wrong, and he had intentions on killing this civilian, and the Lazarus Corp program keeps saying, well, yeah, your gun misfired. Well, yeah, and it's making excuses for his actions. And he's trying to say, no, my gun didn't misfire. There was no accident. I wanted to kill these people. And the Lazarus Corp, program that says, your therapy session is done. You're getting back out in the field. And even this guy is frustrated because he knows that he is not prepared to go out and engage in any kind of law enforcement. But that's not Lazarus Corp's issue. That's not their main focus. And then while looking for the Superman, Lois is intercepted by these two rebels, the Omega Men. And one of them is trying to reason with her, and the other one just wants her dead. He sees her as somebody who cannot be negotiated with and needs to be killed. But the male of these Omega people, Omega Man, this rebel group, he's trying to reason with her. And he thinks that she can be reasoned with. And when she engages with these Omega Men, the Brainiac program alerts the peacemakers that she's made contact with them, even though she has done her best to evade Lazarus Corp and Omega and Brainiac because she wants to find out the truth for herself. But that's when all hell breaks loose. We have the Omega Men in the same place as the Peacemakers and the same place as Lois Lane. All hell breaks loose, and before anything can go off the rails, Superman finally arrives toward the end of the book. I thought this was brilliant. They built up tension, and really what this issue was about is it wasn't about Superman, really. It was about Lazarus Corp. And we find out so much about Lazarus Corp and what they do and how it looks to the people who are in charge and how it looks from the other side of the barrel, if you will, of Lazarus Corp. And we find out who they are for real and what they are really about. And we understand this Superman's motivation and why he works the way he does. And we start to see Lois Lane coming around to, realizing who she works for. And I think the evil that they're capable of. And after the dust settles and the Omega Men break away, we find out that the man who was trying to reason with Lois, his name is Jimmy. That's right, Jimmy Olsen. And so I love how they're taking familiar characters and they're giving them all new lore and approaching them in a different way and remixing them. Very, very fun stuff. And like I said, I love Absolute Superman, even though I'm not a big fan of the original Superman. I think, give this a try. This is only 4 books in, and there's still a couple more I have to catch up with, but every book has been brilliant, and it's been a book that you can read on its own and enjoy on its own, without the previous books. But really, if you're not trying to read all Absolute Superman, you're really robbing yourself of a brilliant comic experience. In my book, the art is amazing. The lore is very deep. It takes its time. And like I said, I'm 4 books in right now personally as far as reading goes. I have a couple more to catch up on. But even though I've only read 4 of the books, it feels like I've read 10. And not in a bad way, just with all of the lore, you get to meet this version of Superman and get to know him on his home planet and find out what their society was like. We get to know this Earth and the conditions that are going on here. We get to know Lazarus Corp, and we get to know Lois Lane, and we're getting nuggets of information dropped in here and there. And it is one of the best DC books going right now, in my opinion. If not, arguably the best DC book, in my opinion. So that's my thoughts on that. Go check out Absolute Superman. You can get local comic book stores. And if you do not have a local comic book store, check out my friend Jeff at Coffee and a Comic, www.coffeeandacomic.com. They ship nationwide, have great rates, service, and one of the easiest to use websites that you're going to buy comic books from. So go check them out. And if you're in Wyoming, check out my friends over at Spellbound, Apothecary, and Entertainment. If you're in Wyoming, they ship free when you order over $35 worth of books. And if you're in the Casper area, go check them out in the Eastridge Mall. So I'll see you guys next time. Until then, keep reading them books. You know I will. I'm out.